Talking to some of the best names in contemporary Christian music. This is the Hope FM Artist Interview.
Hey, Stephen, how you doing?
Hey, Gordon, glad to be here, man.
Well, thank you so much for just actually the beautiful tracks that we've played time and time again here in the UK. It would be great to hear a little bit about your story and a little bit about who you are, how God came into the picture for you, and how your gift of music came about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Georgia, in the United States, and I've been in church my whole life. I've been I was saved, brought to Jesus at a very young age. My dad is a pastor here, and so I've always been in music for a long time. When I was about 9 years old, I lost hearing in my left ear because of an accident, and that's when I started playing music.
Okay, Firstly, what sort of accident did you have?
So it was a jet ski accident.
A 9-year-old on a jet? Were you by yourself?
I was at a friend's house. We were on like a private lake. The lake was very small. The jet skis were kind of old. Yes, and I agree. Probably shouldn't have put a 9-year-old on a jet ski by himself. So I don't know exactly what happened. I sort of blacked out. I don't remember anything. I just remember waking up in the hospital and not being able to hear.
Well, I guess on the bright side, that's not a good situation, but it's much better than waking up and not being able to breathe. So
totally.
So because it's water involved, always dangerous. But you got to hospital, and you came around and found you couldn't hear in your left ear at all.
Correct. Yeah, and one of the things that's kind of always stuck with me is that the doctors said I shouldn't be alive. Wow. They also said there's certain nerves that were. It was so close to where the accident happened, where the impact happened, that I shouldn't be able to use half my face. That it should be, my face should be kind of drooping, and possibly even like my left eye shouldn't be working, like all this. So it could have been so much worse. But it was, I came so close to not being here today. And I think part of that, and maybe this is, I don't know if I should think this way. I think I should, though. God has me here to do something that he wants me to do. And I've just always had that thing about me that I know God wants to use me because I'm still here. From that, from a very young age, I just had that in my mind. But that is really what brought me into what I'm doing today.
We're going to hold you again because
okay,
right. So, okay. So,
right,
so you've had this accident, you've survived, you come around in hospital, and you've lost your hearing in your left ear. At that moment, or your thought process, I just got to try and clarify that because you said that's what got you into music. However, if I just lost my hearing in my left ear, I wouldn't be going, yeah, career in music. That's what I need now that I've lost half my hearing.
Right.
So how did that actually come about, that moment?
So because I was so young, my inner ears were off. So I couldn't play outside. My balance was completely off. Okay. So I was basically had to stay inside, sit on the couch or, watch TV but instead of my mom, letting me watch TV or, getting me like a video game thing, she gave me her old guitar. And so for about 6 months, all I have was like these music instruments. She also taught me how to play the piano. So really that accident, that's how it kind of brought me on that course, because there's nothing else to do, really.
Kudos to your mum, because absolutely the temptation just to stick you in front of a Nintendo or something, I'm sure lots of people would understand, be sympathetic in that situation. If someone did just say, look, here's a Nintendo, it will pass the time. Learning an instrument absolutely changed your life. So were your parents both musical?
My mom, she used to lead worship in college, and my dad has an amazing singing voice. So they're both slightly musical. My mom's a school teacher. My dad's a pastor, so they didn't really do it as a profession or anything.
Not professionally, but they got some skills.
They got some skills for sure.
Yeah, okay. So that's cool. So at age 9, you've learned the guitar and to play the ivories a bit on the piano. Are you writing songs at that moment? Are you just playing other people's songs? What's going on?
Not quite. I'm just kind of playing. So we ended up moving. At the time of the accident, my dad was a youth pastor, and then we moved. and I was about 13, I think, and started playing music in the church. And about that time, that's when I started writing songs. I think my first song was called "Jesus, You Are Mine." I think I think that was the first one. And yeah, I started writing songs, and then just never stopped, I guess.
It's a great thing to have done. I'm very pleased that you stuck with it. Okay,
Yeah.
so is there a moment when you said to yourself, I want to do this as my career?
I don't, you know what? There wasn't, because I never had any other idea of what any other thing that I would do. It was always just like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. Just
Wow.
since I started playing, I've just had this sort of passion for it that I never questioned it. I just knew that was what I was supposed to do.
Okay, so you know that you want to be a musician. Now we better find out about how on earth that actually came about, because you've got some tracks that have been phenomenally successful. If we look at No Hopeless Soul, which we just heard a moment ago, on Spotify, that's been listened to over 4 million times. And that's just one platform alone. It's a hugely loved track. How did you go from 13-year-old playing a bit of music, wanting to do this, to it actually happening?
Man, so yeah, I was playing music mostly in the church. I moved out when I was about 17 of my parents' house, and I decided to become a worship leader at a church, probably about like a couple hours away from my parents. And that didn't work out. I realized that I still lead worship at my dad's church today. But I sort of saw that I kind of wanted to go outside of the church and make music and put out music and write and record. I knew that I didn't want to be a worship leader per se. So that sort of took me on this journey where I started learning the craft of recording and going in the studio. I had a mentor, an amazing mentor that kind of, he had heard a song that I had written and recorded just on my own. And he had been in a band, a rock band in like the early 2000s in the Christian music scene. And yeah, he just took me under his wing, and he taught me so much just about the studio and about how to write a song, really, what it really takes. And yeah, so we had recorded, it's actually unreleased. We recorded like 5 songs together, and we probably 2 years after that, so this was probably 2016 when we started writing and recording some songs. And we went to Nashville, and shortly after that, it's not long story short, literally we sent them these songs, and Capitol Records wanted to sign me, which was the craziest thing ever.
It's absolutely huge.
Yeah, it was mind blowing. So that was 2020. So from about 2016 to 2020, I'm working on music, playing concerts and writing. And then 2020 January, I signed with Capitol, and then the world goes crazy. COVID-19 hits, and literally like I think like 2.5 months later, maybe February, March, when COVID hit. So what the plan was is that I was gonna write and record music, and then do the standard thing, release music and do a radio tour and hopefully play some concerts. But we didn't want to wait. So our first song, No Hope, that was my first song I ever released, was No Hopeless Soul. And it was probably about a year process of working on that song and a few others. Yeah, I think we wrote it mid 2020, and then it came out 2021. January 2021. And honestly, it was so mind-blowing just to, that song ended up being on the radio. To hear your song on the radio for the first time, it's like a crazy experience, and it's so strange, especially when you've been listening to that radio station since you were like a child.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, and also the fact that you're being played on radio stations in the UK and Australia and the States. So you got people listening to you worldwide.
Yeah, that doesn't even compute with my brain. I really don't understand that. I've never been to England. I would love to go to England, but yeah, that's mind blowing. But the song, people really liked it, and the fact, we just played a concert in Michigan here in the States, and they were singing it, while we were playing it. So that's another that's a crazy thing. you know?
It is. I've got to say, I can't imagine how cool that moment would be. I have had the privilege of just being on stage a few times, not to play instruments, but just, get a press pass or something. And then looking out on the crowd, and you've got thousands of people, like 20,000 people, and you're going, whoa, it is just so cool. And people singing stuff at the stage, and you're going, this is just outrageously amazing. So, so the feeling as being the artist is actually leading that, I've got to say, got to be one of those moments you go, this is kind of special. So so that is a neat thing to experience. I suppose I should ask, obviously there's so many highs from it. Has there been a moment where it's just been a struggle, where you've gone, actually this is hard and I need Jesus to help me in this moment? Maybe it's just been something that's gone wrong. Maybe it could be even a funny thing, I don't know, but tell us about some of the times when it's not easy.
Nothing is easy. I think the entire year of 2021 was probably the lowest point in my life so far. I'd had some mental health issues sort of before I started releasing music, and 2021 was just full of this deep anxiety, and eventually slipped into this depression, which was, man, yeah, it was a rough year for sure. And of course I needed God's help. I needed, I was, reading scripture every day. And I think it goes into these next two songs I think we'll play eventually. I ended up writing about 230 songs in 2021, which that's, according to Nashville standards, the normal songwriter will write 100 to 150 songs a year. And I just sort of went way over that.
That is an extraordinary number of songs to have written. So, wow.
Yeah, it's great, and it goes into, what we wrote, No Hopeless Soul, what it was about, was exactly what it says, that no one's hopeless. I would have, people at my church here. There would be so many times where someone would walk in and say, or not walk in. I would talk to someone and invite them to church or talk to them about Jesus. And they say, I've got to fix me first. I've got to get rid of all the bad stuff I'm doing. And then I can go to church, and then I can, talk to God about it, or talk to my family about it. And No Hopeless Soul was sort of saying the antithesis of that. It's like, no, you don't fix yourself first. You start a relationship with Jesus, and then he fixes you. he works through all that stuff. You don't have to stay in this state of hopelessness, because that's where you'll be if you don't ask Jesus to help you. And that's sort of how I felt. It was kind of ironic that I put out this song called No Hopeless Soul, feeling sort of hopeless myself, after I put it out. And one thing that started to happen, which sort of got me out of that, it was a very slow process. I started reading scripture every day. That's a thing that sounds so like Sunday school, to do that, but it helps me so much today, just keeping a good frame of mind and understanding that there's a bigger picture, and that God has you, and he's got everything under control. But yeah, but also in the songwriting, the reason I wrote so many songs is that's my outlet. That's what God gave me to be able to express myself. And so I just started writing songs, and they started off really, really dark. And there's these next two songs were written in that sort of period, in the really dark period. And then over time, they got a lot brighter and a lot more hopeful. And I would walk into songwrites, with other guys, that we were writing with, and I would just tell them, I'm like, I don't want to write the standard Christian song right now. I don't want to write, the verse, everything is bad. The chorus, oh, everything's good now. And the bridge is like, everything's really good now. I was just like, can we just write a song about where I'm at right now? Can I just sit down and just express what's going on? Because that's what I need to do. That's what feels honest right now. And so that's what we did.
Well, I've got to say, definitely worth being honest with your music, because it comes through really beautifully in the songs, but also it's a real joy to talk to you. And one thing you won't know is that actually this is the third interview in a row where people have talked about mental health, anxiety struggles, and actually just even as Christians, things actually, it's hard, and being realistic and honest about things being hard. I hope that it's a helpful message to our listeners that if you're finding things hard, you're not alone at finding things hard, but also that people talk about coming through that hard time as well. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. So you talked about reading scripture. Now, for maybe some of our non-Christian listeners, maybe they just tuned in by accident, they're not really sure what we're even talking about. But you mentioned that when you're having anxiety and panic attacks, you would read scripture. So we're talking about the Bible. Was there a particular book within the Bible that you would turn to more often than others?
Yeah, absolutely. I've read this book now maybe 8 or 9 times. It's Luke, the Gospel of Luke. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the way it was written, because Luke is written in a very conversational type way. And it's written sort of for the layman almost, which I don't know why it had so much impact, but I'll probably read Luke every other month now.
Wow.
I'll take a break, but I don't know why. I just love Luke. I love reading what Jesus said, when they're quoting Jesus. And there's something about reading that in particular that just had an effect on me.
So have you slowed down on your songwriting, or are you still as prolific as you were in 2021?
Sort of. So basically I wrote 220 songs, and it's, inevitable for those to just kind of get lost in the weeds. So this is very recent. Last week, I'm finally going to be able to make an album. I've only made EPs, my whole life. So I'm going to make an album. I can tell you, it's going to be like a big album. There's going to be 20 something songs on it. So
so I just got to double. You said 20.
Yeah, a lot.
That is a crackingly big album. That's huge. Okay, 20 tracks. So, and your tracks aren't exactly 1 minute 20-second tracks normally. So that's going to be quite a good album by the sounds of things.
I think so. I mean, there's so many songs, and I literally went to the label and was just like, hey, we've got some great songs. I have a story I want to tell, and I sort of have a concept for it, and this is how I want to do it, and I want it to be this many songs. And they were, I think they said when I walked in the room to meet with them, they were thinking I was going to say, hey, let's do 4 more songs and then make an album. Make an album out of my releases. But I was like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to make a lot more music. So wow. I haven't slowed down songwriting, but I have in a way, because I'm actually working on making the music for a lot of those songs that I've written. So,
okay. So gonna be kind of busy then.
Yeah. So that's why I haven't toured a whole lot. And I've only got little sparse dates here and there. But I'm really trying to make this album the best thing ever. So yeah.
It's a high bar to set the best thing ever. So
best thing ever in my
Okay, so I know, because in the back of my mind I was going, he wants to make something better than the album Holy Water by We the Kingdom. It's going to be hard. So, but okay. So, do you like that album? Have you listened to it?
Oh yeah, I love them. They're amazing. Okay. They're actually friends. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're actually.
Yeah. They're friends of mine. So yeah.
Are they? Oh. Yeah. We've got mutual friends. That's nice. Yeah. So cool. Okay. So 20 track album. When's that going to hit?
I can't tell you.
Okay. Do you want me to try and guess? Is it going to be February 2023?
I think it'll be first quarter 2023.
Okay, I'm probably right. I'm probably right. It's probably February 2023,
probably
ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first. Okay, that's cool. So that's something to look forward to. Now, for listeners who maybe don't know you very well, or those who aren't yet connected with you, how do people go about finding you? Where are you on the web and social media?
Yeah, it's Steve and Stanley Music. Mostly on TikTok and Instagram. Those are my two main things. So TikTok and Facebook. You could, if you want to.
Facebook if you're my age. Thank you, Stephen. So okay, so with regards to touring, obviously you know who you're touring with. You can't tell us because it's hush hush. But if you could tour with anybody, and you're not allowed now to pick the people that you are touring with, so forget them. If you could tour with anybody, who would be your dream tour people?
Ooh, that's difficult.
I'm going to make it hard. You're not allowed to choose anybody on your label.
Oh, okay. Any genre? Is that
any genre at all? Who would you like to go and sing on a big stage with?
One would be Switchfoot. Yeah, they're that's probably the first music I remember hearing just as a person. So Switchfoot would be awesome. Just dreaming big. Do you guys like Coldplay in the UK? I can't remember.
Do we like Coldplay? I think we probably do like Coldplay in the UK. Yes, it's Coldplay.
Weird rumors that, because we always make fun of Nickelback here in the United States. I've heard that there's like a lot of Coldplay haters in the UK, but I could be very wrong.
Oh yeah, there probably are, but they're probably wrong.
So Coldplay would be way up there for sure. And Need to Breathe. That would be amazing.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that would be quite a good a good lineup. I'd enjoy. I would go to that show if you were in it. Yeah. Well, look, I can't promise you, but I'll see if I can arrange it. Okay.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Great.
If I do, I'll definitely get back in touch. Okay. So you've got some decent places you're going to play. You're not telling us where they are. You've got an album coming out. That's fantastic news. Could you tell me about something that God's done in your life, other than obviously your accident where he saved you? Something that God's done in your life where you go, wow, that was just a God moment.
Yeah. I'm still in the midst of this right now. My wife, so I was on tour with, do you guys know We Are Messengers?
Yeah, I do.
So I was on tour with
they're
them.
sort of from our neck of the woods, although they've gone. We've lent them to your side of the pond temporarily.
Yeah, Ireland. But so I was on tour with them early this year, and my wife calls me. And this was early in the morning. My wife calls me just screaming. She's at home alone. I'm going to be a dad soon, by the way, which is great. So
that is so that's your first child on the way?
First child on the way. She's coming in October.
Okay.
But she calls me in the midst, I'm on tour. I think I'm in Indiana, and then she's back in Georgia. So I'm about 8 hours away. And someone was trying to break into our house.
Whoa.
While I was away. And
while she was in the house.
While she was in the house, she was getting ready for work, and she looks out the window, and this guy is just staring at her. And she's yelling, and he just continues to stare at her and sort of messing with the door. And so she's, she picks up her phone. The guy sees the phone, and he runs away. And what this did to her, she's pregnant. I think she was about 4 or 5 months pregnant at this point. And I'm away, she's home alone. It was just terrible situation. And since then we've been dealing with sort of the aftermath. My wife, to this day, she's still struggling with fear. They never caught the guy that actually did it. So she's just got this fear that this guy's still out there. And I'll tell you, a lot of the things that I've seen come from that, it sort of goes back to the questions of why does this have to happen right now, God? Like, why are we going through this? What's the purpose? Over here in the States, housing is so expensive. It's so hard to move, and that's one thing we wanted to do was just get out of that house. And recently, I would call it a miracle. We were able to figure out a way to get out and go to another house. So that's one thing where it's like, man, my wife can rest, and for the rest of this pregnancy, we can actually get ready for the baby instead of dealing with the turmoil that's surrounded this. And then there was a certain song that came out of that, and it's the sort of song I think could be life changing for my family. And that's one thing. Obviously, we haven't seen that yet. I could be totally wrong, but it seems to be what God is showing me is that there's a purpose in everything. Even in the bad things and the trials, there's something I'm doing. There's something that God is doing. So yeah.
You've been watching The Artist Interview. For the full podcast, click the links below or visit hopefm.com/The Artist Interview.